When must both sides exchange at the same time? That's what we want to talk about today. We started talking about it last week, and now we want to go into details, inshallah. We took the broad picture last week. Now we want to look at some details, inshallah ta'ala. So this is the case when all delay is forbidden. All delay is forbidden means both sides must exchange on the spot. So we have here, I'm going to read from number 4. Sometimes all delay is forbidden, like when specific types can be exchanged only under special conditions, like gold, silver, and food. And those are the details of usury and sales. So there's 2 types of usury. What are the 2 types of usury? This is an important answer. 2 types of usury. Write this down. Don't forget it anymore. Usury in sales and usury in loans. Riba fil bay' and riba fil qard. Usurious sales, usurious loans. The one that all the people know is the usurious loan. Any loan that draws a benefit is riba. The benefit is the interest. So if you want to translate riba as interest, then we're saying there's interest in loans and there's interest in sales too. So next time you're going to say that. What are the 2 types of riba? You're going to say, inshallah, riba in sales and riba in loans. The one about loans, everyone knows. The one about sales, this is the one that's restricted to gold, silver, and food. So you have 2 types. Yani, 2 sides if you want. One side is bullion. You know what that is? And the other side is food. So those 2 don't cross. Bullion deals with itself, and food deals with itself. But it's going to be the same system on both sides. Which is, if we take the side of bullion, if you're going to sell bullion for bullion, so those are broad words, that means it has to be always exchanged at the same time. I didn't say which bullion, so it's open. It's as open as I said it. If you sell bullion for bullion, it has to always be at the same time. At the same time means in the same session, before you part ways. Your session is as long as you're together. 5 minutes, 20 minutes, etc. All of that's your session. So also on the other side, food for food, just as open as I'm mentioning it to you, must always be exchanged in the same session. Now there's another question. What about the measure of what's being sold? Do they have to be the same on both sides too? Or only has to be delivered in the same session, both sides? The answer is, if the bullion is the same type, that means gold for gold or silver for silver, then also has to be the same measure on both sides. And if the food is the same type, so dates for dates, raisins for raisins, wheat for wheat, salt for salt, then has to be the same measure on both sides. What about the species? This doesn't matter. It's enough to be the same type. I think last week I got my words mixed up a little bit. Species and type and things. When I say species means, what is it? Aztec gold for Californian gold? Doesn't matter. It's enough to be the same kind, which is gold. So we want to talk here then about usurious sales. Concerning gold and silver or food, including water, and we say gold, we mean just what's pure, and the silver, just what's pure. When we talk about bullion, we only mean the pure amount of it, not any alloy, not something that's mixed in it to make it hard. This must not be counted in the measure. Then how do you measure that? If you busy yourself, if you're busy with this field, you would know. Because they say, for example, 16 carats or 18 carats or 24 carats. This is to express the amount of pure gold versus something else in there. We only want the pure bullion for the measurement when it comes to usury sale. Concerning gold and silver or food, including water, so water is food here, and spices, that's food, and medicine, that has the judgment of food here, but not exclusively or mostly animal food like hay, not animal food. That doesn't count here. Nor genie food like bones, because humans don't eat bones. Nor live animals, because they are not food, so those are not counted also for usury sale. Live animal. You can sell 1 cow for 2 cows. So concerning gold and silver or food, sometimes both sides must be definitively equal. Definitively equal, that means if you have even the slightest doubt that it's equal on both sides, then you fell into riba. That's why you need to be careful when you return food. Are you sure if it's the same type? Are you sure that that's the exact same measure? Sometimes you could be if it's a type of food that can be exactly measured, but some food cannot be exactly measured. The cooked food and the meals, like platters, things like that, mixed things. Mixed is like, for example, a can of Pepsi. It's mixed. There's water in there, there's sugar in there, there's other things in there. You can't take the fact that each can tastes the same to be sure that the ingredients are exactly 100% the same on both sides. So sometimes both sides must be definitively equal, with no doubt. According to the religious scale. What's the religious scale? The religious scale is the mode of measure assigned for whatever it is you want to measure. What is the religious scale for bullion? Who knows? What is the religious scale for bullion? Weight. The religious scale for bullion, gold or silver, is weight. You measure it by weight. Maybe I should have said the religious measure. What about food? It depends on the type of food. So if it's weighed, then yani. If the religious scale is that it's weighed, then by weight. If the religious scale is that it's by volume, then by volume. As for the bullion, it's weight. Religiously. Nah. So sometimes both sides must be definitively equal according to the religious scale, and also be exchanged on the spot. So whenever you have both of those together, has to be equal on both sides and exchanged on the spot, in which case is that's the case of gold for gold, or silver for silver, or food for the same food. And sometimes they only have to be exchanged on the spot. So which case is that? That's the case of gold for silver. Doesn't have to be equal on both sides. Or food for a different kind of food. Doesn't have to be equal on both sides, but still exchanged on the spot because same kind. Food or bullion. even in a settlement. I won't indulge there. I'll keep going here. Therefore, unless you have a question, in these strict cases of gold, silver, and food, there can never be a condition to delay. Never. Although there can sometimes be inequity. When can there be inequity? When it's gold for silver or silver for gold. When can it be inequity? When it's gold for silver or silver for gold, or when it's a food for a different type of food. But there can never be a condition even of delay. The word condition here is important. A condition. The condition is different from actually delaying. That condition to delay is riba itself, even if you don't delay. Condition here means you put it in the contract. I'll give you my gold now, you'll give me yours later. Well, I'll give you my gold now and you give me your silver later. So there can never be a condition to delay for these cases. So what about outside of riba sales? There can be a delay. That's why you can go to the store and put something on your tab. Go to the brother's store and say, brother, can I put this on the tab? And he says, sure. And he writes you down, and you come back later and pay for it. That's valid. Selling food for food or gold for silver must always be by exchange on the spot. Yes. Like rose oil for violet oil and cow milk for camel milk. Therefore, these cannot be the subjects of a salam sale, advance payment sale. So, meaning, take from this sentence the difference between, the contrast between a riba sale and a salam sale. What's the case of riba sale? Riba sale that you cannot delay. Both sides must exchange. Salam sale is that you must pay up front, and according to some imams, you have to specify delay. So those two contracts in themselves, they don't function the same way. You can't take what's subject to riba and apply it on both sides to salam sale. That's invalid sale. If you have any question there, let me know, please. If it is more specifically a type of food for the same type, like olives for olives, or cow milk for cow milk, okay. Yeah. So what I mentioned for you up top, number 2. Let me read it again. Selling food for food. This means different type. Or gold for silver. So they're not the same. Same side, but different kind. Species doesn't matter. Must always be exchanged on the spot. Like rose oil for violet oil. These are not same kind. Those are not the same kind. So they don't have to be equal on both sides. And cow milk for camel milk, not the same kind. Therefore, these cannot be subjects of a salam sale. But if it is more specifically a type of food for the same type, so what's in this paragraph here, these 3 lines, number 2, this is nice details for you. If it is more specifically a type of food for the same type, like olives for olives, without regard to the species, and cow milk for cow milk, without regard to the species, or gold for gold, or silver for silver, without regard to the species, there must also be equality on both sides. Not only exchanged at the same time, but equality on both sides, and there can never be a condition to delay. When equity is a condition but cannot be known, when equity is a condition but cannot be known, the sale is invalid. Like wheat for flour. Wheat for flour. Why is equity a condition here? Because flour is wheat. It's just pulverized. And now that it's pulverized like this, you can't be sure that they're measured equally on both sides. للجهل بالمماثلة بتفاوت الدقيق في النعومة والخبز في تأثير النار ويجوز بيع ذلك. Yeah. So why you can't sell the wheat for the flour? First of all, why would equity be a condition here? Because they are actually the same substance. So it's wheat for wheat. So then the rule is they need to be equal on both sides. But once some of that wheat was pulverized and became powder, then this affected the ability to measure them equally. Now we cannot measure them equally. Same thing if it were bread, wheat for bread. Now we cannot measure them equally, although the bread is wheat. Yani has wheat. The bread has wheat. So can you sell the wheat that's in the bread? Because there's other things in there too, like water and other things. Can you sell the wheat that's in the bread for wheat? Also, it's not possible to measure up the two sides equally. So it's not valid. You cannot sell wheat for flour. You cannot sell wheat for bread. Invalid sale. And cheese for cheese, not valid because the multiple ingredients. You're unable to be sure that all ingredients on both sides are exactly the same. And also, what is affected by strong fire for the same type? What is affected by strong fire means cooked. Cooked as opposed to, you'll see what? Like bread for bread. Okay, so one might say, okay, wheat for bread is a no-go. What about bread for bread? Same thing. Now we're not able to measure them up on both sides equally. So they cannot be sold one for the other. But not what was extracted by weak fire, like honey from wax, because the honey's not cooked. It just was sifted by this fire from something that was holding it. This type of thing also cannot be the subject of a salam sale, what was affected by strong fire. Even a brick cannot be subject to a salam sale. You'll review that, inshallah. We covered that already. Also, moist food for moist food or dry food of its type. Moist food for moist or dry food of its type. Can't sell that. Like grapes for grapes. Can't sell that. Or grapes for raisins. Can't sell that either. Because really they're the same thing. The grapes and the raisins. The raisins, the dried version. So you can't sell those for each other because of the water that's in the grapes. So you can't sell the grapes for the grapes, and you can't sell the grapes for the raisins, but you can sell raisins for raisins under the proper conditions. Milk is not included in this judgment because it is already at its final stage. Yani, you can sell milk for milk. Why? Because it's at its final stage already. Yani, what this means is that it's at its final stage. Didn't we say you can sell the raisins for the raisins? Yes. But not the grapes for the grapes because they're moist, still wet inside, they have water. You can sell grapes for something. So you can sell grapes for money. You can sell grapes for something else. But you can't sell grapes for grapes because of the moisture inside. That makes us not able to measure them the same. So somebody might say, wait a minute, why you can't measure them the same? If I have, let's say, a kilo of grapes on one side and another kilo of grapes on the other side, then what's the problem? They have the same measure. So the answer is Because actually, the issue is that the scholars are looking at it from the final stage of the product. So what's the final stage of the grape? It's a raisin. So you can sell the raisins for raisins. That's their final stage there. Because we're saying you can't sell moist food for moist food. Why you can't sell moist food for moist food? The water in there, it's because of the fact that this moist food, you need to consider that it goes through stages. Or if it does. So if it goes through stages, then the regard is given to the final stage, not while it's moist. So you can sell grapes. Selling grapes is lawful. You can sell grapes for money, currency, or you can sell grapes for any other merchandise, but not grapes. Any other merchandise but grapes. So according to the way it's worded at first, looks like that's because it's moist. It's wet. That has something to do with it. But it's because it's not at its final stage. That's the real reason. It's not at its final stage. That's why you can sell raisins for raisins, because they're at their final stage already. If you took grapes, if you had a kilo of grapes on one side, kilo of grapes on the other side. So someone asks, what's the problem here? The problem is when you dry them, it's not going to be a kilo on both sides, or it's not going to be equal on both sides. When you turn both kilos into raisins, they're not going to weigh the same. And the scholars said that the regard is given to the final stage. So that's why you can't sell the grapes for the grapes while they're moist, Yani. Can you sell milk for milk? Yes, you can. Why you can sell milk for milk and they're wet? Because the milk is already at its final stage. Yeah, and it's going to go bad after that. So then, like that, you can sell the milk for milk. And it's not mixed. That milk, whatever is what its components, that's how it came out of the animal. So it's like one thing. You're not going to say, how much percentage of water is in this milk? No, you don't go there. Did you have a question?
Yeah, that was the question about milk for milk. Now, skim milk is not at its final stage then.
What's not at its final stage?
Skim milk.
Skim milk?
Yes.
I don't know. What they're talking about here is that milk came right out of the animal. You squeezed it right into the bucket, for example.
Okay, so when they get it, they say like low fat milk and all that stuff. That's when they start tampering with it.
Yeah, they're doing something to it. So I don't know what they're doing to it.
Okay, that's all. So I got it now. I was a little confused. All right, thanks.
You are. Whenever payment is due, whether from one side or both sides, it must be submitted and seen before dispersal. This last statement here is not specific to usury and sales. Whenever payment is due, whenever, not just for usury and sales. Basically, this section on money and exchange has come to an end. And this is a closing statement before we go into the next chapter of hiring and renting. So as a closing statement pertaining to money and pertaining to exchanging, whenever payment is due, whether from one side or both sides, it must be submitted and seen before dispersal. Until then, the sale can be breached. So whenever payment is due, when is payment due? So if it's a riba sale, gold for gold, silver for silver, food for food, or bullion for bullion or food for food, then payment is due before dispersal, for sure. So then each side takes from the other and sees what he took, and we already said what it means to see. How do you see? How do you see? We talked about that before. It depends on the type of thing it is. But, so we covered that. You see it. So whenever payment is due, whether from one side or both, it must be submitted. That means you give it to the other side, or you give it to the other side's proxy. It's the same. Giving it to his proxy is the same as giving it to him. That's an authorized person, yani. It must be submitted and seen before dispersal. When is payment due? So if it's riba, it's going to be on both sides. It's due. Payment is due from both sides before dispersal. If it's advance payment sale, payment is due from one side immediately. The one who's putting in the order. So that means that the one who's taking the order, he takes that payment and he looks at it, whatever it is. So it's his money, cash money. That's the payment. This is not money for fulfilling the order. No, it's not money for filling the order. This is paying a person who's going to fill your order. Yani, he has to fill your order. You paid him. He doesn't have to use his money to fill your order, is what I'm trying to say. Now you paid him though, and he has to get it to you. You're not going to pay him again. So, but you have to pay him up front. So he takes it and he looks at it. Yani, he sees it, or his proxy sees it, and then you can disperse. So now he has to deliver later. So he delivers, and then when you get your delivery, you look at it, and then you can, if it's right, then you go. So that's how it goes. This goes back to seeing your item. Some scholars said you cannot buy a specific item that you have not seen. You cannot buy a specific item that you have not seen. Remember, according to that, before you leave the restaurant, open up your order so you can look at it. Your sandwich is all wrapped up and bagged up. It's wrapped up and bagged up. Open the bag, open the wrap before you disperse. Look at it, and then go. According to some scholars, invalid if you don't do that. Some scholars said still valid as long as it's right when you see it. But some scholars said it's not valid if you don't even see it before you disperse. Until then, the sale can be breached. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. Any question? So it says, is it halal to exchange between currencies? Yes. And profit from the rates, since the currency rates are always fluctuating. Yeah, you can profit, you can get as much profit and take as much loss as you want, as long as it's not riba sale. You can take as much profit or loss as you want, as long as it's not riba sale. So tell me, I want you to answer me. Riba sale pertains to what? You said you're with customers. Okay. Riba sale pertains to gold, silver, and food. So your question is it halal to exchange between currencies? Yes. It's all merchandise. All the currency is mere merchandise. There is no prohibition of exchanging one currency for another. That's the same as just buying anything. It's valid to buy a fish for example, a stick. It's valid to buy a fish for a stick. So, like that. I was about to say a bag of marbles, but then I wasn't sure what's the judgment of buying a bag of marbles. Maybe that's a valid game for the children. If it's a valid toy for the children, then you can buy it. That's where I was thinking, but I haven't heard. طيب بارك الله فيكم وجزاكم الله خيرا.